Hello and welcome everyone. Today we are working on lesson 6.5, which is a guess who type project that is using a lot of the dictionaries that we've been working on throughout unit 6. So I'll just go ahead and start by importing random because I'm going to need to do a random pick later on in the lesson, but I just know that I need that, so I'm just going to include it now. And the first thing we're going to do is that the first information I have on the assignment is that the game should store information on 5 different characters, and each character should have a name, a gender, an age, a height, and a hair color. So I'm going to set that up using a dictionary. So I'm going to say char dictionary 1 is equal to, and then I start my syntax using the curly braces. And as what it's saying is, at least in the documents that I have, is that we need a name, a gender, an age, a height, and hair for our characters, right? So I am going to start with name is equal to something, and I'm going to put a comma right there. And matter of fact, I like to kind of make my life easier by sort of templating as I go along. I know I'll need 5 different key value pairs in this dictionary, so I'm just going to go ahead and put a couple of different sets of quotation marks. So here I put in name, then I'm going to put in gender, then I'm going to put in age, then I'm going to put in height, and then I'm going to put in hair. Now, one thing before I move on is I can tell that I have a pretty well set up character dictionary right here. And I'm likely going to be using this over and over again for all the different dictionaries that I'll be using, right? Because I'm going to do 5 dictionaries, and I kind of just want to start off with this template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. And specifically, I'm copying it now because I don't have any information on the right-hand side, and the left-hand side is going to be the same for all my dictionaries, right? So I'm going to go ahead and paste that once. I'm going to paste it twice. And right there, I have 5 different characters. And just to make sure I don't forget it for later, I'm going to give them different numbers. Right, so now what you can do is basically go through each one of these and give them their unique characteristics, and you don't have to, kind of copy it with the information in it and then change it. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start naming it. So I'm going to say this is Mike. Mike is a male. His age is 51. His height is 5'10". And what am I doing on this one? So one thing I notice on this is that I want to do solid quotation marks because I'm going to include this. So I included these double quotation marks right here because I wanted to include this foot marker, like the apostrophe, we use it as a foot. And so I want to say 5'10", but if I were to do just the single quotes like I do on the rest of these, it wouldn't make any sense. It would kind of say, hey, that's the end. But when I use the double quotation marks, it just interprets the single apostrophe as another part of that string, right? Kind of a small thing, but it's always good to pick up on little things like that as you go along. Now, for the sake of time, because I've already done it and you can come up with these on your own, I'm going ahead and copy and paste what I have from my notes. So this is code that I've already written, and I'm just going to go ahead and skip through this portion. So you can see I've created several new dictionaries, named one Allison, one is named Priscilla, one is named Brad, and one is named Zach. So as you can see here, Brad is named after me. The only thing that's incorrect here is I'm not 6'1", but we're just going to go with it for now. So here we have our 5 character dictionaries. Just like the lab specifies, they have a gender, an age, a height, and a hair. And now we actually have to get to the game portion, right? So we've worked on games before. They're going to follow a pretty simple syntax, and that syntax is the while loop. And I'm going to go ahead and start my while loop right now, even though there's some setup that needs to get there. But I'm going to say user command while the user command is not equal to, and I want the user to say quit. And what else do I want? I want to check the game status is not equal to over. I'm going to do lowercase. So if you haven't seen this, I would go to unit 2. I believe that's the first time that I use the kind of while loop, and you can see the project we use this, but this is the simple and most important syntax for, the games that we're going to be creating in this class. It's just a very simple while loop, and it starts, and the user is allowed to give commands, and this command this stuff doesn't quit until we say it so. And actually, I think right here, I'm going to keep this as an and loop just for now, but I think I might want to keep that as an or loop instead, because I want to say while the user command is not quit, or while the game status is over. Actually, no, this makes sense. I'll explain why in just a bit, but basically we want these both to be true to continue the while loop. If one of them is different, then it'll stop. In addition to setting up that while loop, there's also a lot of pre-work that we want to do to kind of start getting our project ready. So one thing that we'll have to do later is that we'll have to actually loop through the list of characters to be able to check them. And so to do that, I created a array of my characters. So I'm going to say char dict1, char dict2, and so on, because otherwise, even though I've named them sequentially, the program's not going to know, like, hey, I want to look through each one of my dictionaries. So I put these into this list, and then I'll be able to actually say for every character in that dictionary's list. In addition, what we also have to do is give the user a random character that they have to guess, and that is part of the reason we've given a char list. So I'm going to say the game chosen character is equal to char list, and then I'm going to pick a random index, and that random index is just going to be random.randint. And you've seen this before. This is why we imported random, and random int is just going to give us random integer from the first number that we specify and the second number that we specify, right? So it will include 0 and 4, or it will be somewhere in between. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So again, another reason why we created this char list into a list of dictionaries. And then finally, just to kind of confirm which one I chose, I'm going to say print game chosen character. Now, if I comment these two out and I play this code, what I should get is the random dictionary printed out that is actually chosen. So you can see here has the key value pair for everything that I have. So name Brad, gender male, so on and so forth. If I click run again, you can see that now changes to be Zach instead. Now what we have to do is we've got the random character chosen. We've got the, while loop, kind of begun. And matter of fact, I think I could finish this all in one video. I'm kind of trying to figure out right now, like, oh, do I want to keep going? But I think we can. So the second thing that we want to do now, before we set up our full loop, I want to set up a function that's going to print out all of my characters, right? So I want to print out every single character on command. Now there is a for loop that we can write that'll do that, but I also want to just write a function for now so that I can call that later on in my main gain loop without having to reiterate through all of this, right? So here I'm going to say definition print underscore all chars. I'm going to say list of chars, and this is the actual list that I'm going to give it. That's the name of what we'll call it inside the function. So what we're going to do, so we're going to say for char dictionary in list of chars, right? Or just say, hey, let's loop through every single one of these dictionaries, and we're pretty much just going to print out each one of them. But here I'm going to say, I'm going to give it a char name, and that's just going to be blank, and I'm going to give it a print list, which is equal to just a simple array. And then here is where I'm actually going to be printing this stuff out, and I'm going to be printing it out in a list later, and you'll see that. So here I'm going to say for item in char dictionary. So for each one of those key value pairs, if the item is equal to the name, I want to store that in the variable I just gave it. And that's going to be char dictionary at the item index. If it is not that, we're going to say elsewise on the print list. we're going to go ahead and append our char dictionary item. So there, once we have all that, we're going to go back here and we're going to say print out that char name, and we also want to print out the print list. Now, of course, this isn't the only way that you have to do this. You could just print out every single one of your character dictionaries. I've decided to do it in a way that will work regardless of how many added. Let's say, you're demoing this project with one of your friends and you want to mess with them. You could give them this massively long list of characters, and you could do that. You could even set them up programmatically, giving random names, random ages, random heights to different people, right? I've just chosen to do this in a way that'll print out the character name and the character's attributes in sort of a more clean way. So real quick, what we're going to do is we're going to print out all chars because I want to see this work, and I'm going to give it char list just like we've defined it up here. Now, if I right click and run, you can see it's naming out. First, I have this print, and we could probably get rid of that. But here it's telling us Mike, and then it's giving us all his attributes. Allison, it's giving her all her attributes. And we can kind of see those as we go down. And this is a much neater format, I think, than kind of printing it out as a key value pair. But of course, you can totally do that for your code, right? So that's our program so far. I'm actually going to end the video here, and you're going to see in part 2 how to set up the actual while loop and how to set up the actual game and incorporate the function we just wrote, as well as setting up all the other different commands that the user can use. Thank you guys for tuning in to part 1.